While taking my usual stroll through the park, I stumbled upon an injured kitten nestled next to a proud falcon. Oddly, the kitten refused to leave its feathered companion's side, and the falcon stood guard like a steadfast sentinel. Curiosity piqued, I approached slowly, unsure of what I'd witness next. Suddenly, the falcon spread its wings wide, revealing why this bond was far beyond ordinary. As I stood there, taking in this peculiar sight of the kitten and the falcon, it wasn't long before other park goers started to gather around. People of all sorts moved closer, each with a look of intrigue. "What an odd pair," one lady remarked. "Just imagine what brought them together." Their curiosity matched mine, and soon a small crowd formed, each whispered theory adding to the mystery of the unlikely pair. The gathering crowd exchanged whispers filled with curiosity, and a few folks raised their phones to capture the moment. "It's like something out of a fairy tale," a man commented while snapping a picture. There were many guesses about how these two came to be so attached. "Maybe the falcon saved it," suggested a child, eyes wide with wonder. Each theory was as unlikely as the next, fueling the intrigue further. As the crowd grew, a park ranger ambled over, curious about the commotion. "What's happening here?" he asked, pushing through to the front. His trained eyes immediately zeroed in on the kitten. He crouched and studied its tiny body with an experienced gaze. "Looks like it's hurt," the ranger observed, deftly inspecting the kitten's injuries. Meanwhile, the falcon remained, ever watchful, its beady eyes on everyone present. A wildlife expert arrived shortly after, clearly intrigued by the scene. Adjusting his glasses, he observed the odd couple closely. "Natural enemies, these two," he noted, and then speculated aloud. "Yet, somehow, they found common ground. A shared history, perhaps?" No one else had an answer, and his words lingered in the air, prompting nods from the crowd. The falcon didn't flinch, seemingly unbothered by the expert's close scrutiny. As all eyes focused on the kitten and the falcon, I felt the falcon's gaze fix on me, almost as if daring anyone to make a move. Its majestic posture and piercing stare spoke volumes. It would protect this little creature at any cost, and the seriousness in its stance made that clear. Feeling slightly unnerved yet more intrigued, I wondered what lay behind this intense protectiveness over the kitten. My curiosity only deepened with each passing minute. I decided there must be more to this strange friendship than what met the eye. Determined to delve further into the backstory, I resolved to uncover any information I could. But where to start? I thought the answer might lie in someone who had witnessed the pair's initial encounter. Surely someone else had seen how this all began. I began asking people around the park if they had seen anything unusual in the past few days involving the kitten and the falcon. Most shook their heads, merely recounting seeing the pair together today. However, I noticed one jogger who seemed different from the crowd. She nodded knowingly when I approached her, suggesting she might have more information. "I might have seen something," she started, her eyes flicking toward the forest. "I've seen that kitten before," the jogger explained. "A few days ago, it was limping near the forest's edge, all alone." She paused, her expression thoughtful. "But back then, there wasn't any falcon beside it." Her account added a new layer to the mystery. If the kitten was alone at first, when and how did the falcon come into play? More questions than answers continued to emerge. Another witness approached, apparently drawn by our conversation. "I heard something strange," he chimed in, recalling sounds from around the time the jogger mentioned. Flapping wings mixed with distressed meowing, odd noises coming from the trees. His recollection seemed to support the jogger's story. The mystery deepened further as everyone theorized about what those sounds could mean. Could it have been their first meeting? Maybe the falcon wasn't a threat at all. With everyone buzzing with theories, I decided it was time to expand my search beyond the park. I figured the local animal shelters might hold some answers. So I headed to the nearest one, thinking that maybe the kitten had a history there. As I approached the small, bustling shelter, I felt a renewed sense of curiosity and determination to uncover the truth behind this odd companionship. Once inside the shelter, I asked around about any recently reported stray kittens or falcons. Most volunteers shook their heads, not recognizing my descriptions. Then, one volunteer paused and mentioned something passing. We've seen more birds lately. Predators, actually. Something's stirring them up, she said, with a casual shrug. Her words were a small clue, but they sparked my interest in exploring this further. Feeling like I was hitting a dead end, the shelter manager suddenly pulled me aside. You might want to be careful, she warned, her voice low and serious. There was something about the woods, she hinted, something darker and unsettling. Her cryptic words echoed in my mind as I left. The idea of heading to the woods took root, and I couldn't shake the feeling there was more to uncover. The shelter manager's warning only fueled my curiosity. I decided an early morning hike through the forest was in order. If there was something amiss, I was determined to find it. I planned my route and set my alarm for dawn, eager to start my little adventure. The thought of going alone through the dim woods was nerve-wracking, but the pull to discover the truth kept me going. The next morning, I packed my essentials, a camera to capture evidence and a notebook for any findings. My bag felt light yet purposeful on my back as I walked to the forest entrance. With each step, my resolve strengthened. I had no idea what I would stumble upon, but the thought of peeling back the layers of this mystery was more thrilling than daunting. The sound of leaves crunching underfoot filled the morning air as I ventured deeper into the woods. It was serene yet eerie, with the soft rustling of branches above. I kept my eyes sharp and senses alert, hoping to notice anything unusual. Sweat beaded on my forehead, but the steady rhythm of my footsteps maintained my focus. The forest seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful. It made me wonder what lay ahead. Moving deep into the shadows of the forest, I saw something that made me freeze. Scratch marks were etched into the bark of a tree, signs of a possible struggle. Nearby, bits of fur clung to thorny branches, a chilling indicator of recent activity. My mind raced with possibilities as I took note of everything. Whatever had happened here, it felt ominously connected to the Falcon and Kitten. My findings caused a shiver to run down my spine. The evidence pointed to something bigger, something involving more than just the Kitten and Falcon. Questions swirled in my mind. What had caused these marks? What had been lurking here? It was a puzzle growing larger with each new piece I discovered. I felt both a thrill and a sense of urgency as I processed this unexpected twist. Trying to make sense of it all, I hurriedly scribbled my observations into the notebook. The idea of a larger predator, something unfamiliar yet possibly linked to the Falcon and Kitten, began to form in my mind. I was more determined than ever to understand what was happening. Whatever this connection meant, it seemed far from ordinary, prompting a new sense of resolve to dig deeper into the mystery. Back at the park, I found the Kitten and Falcon still together, as inseparable as ever. They seemed to move in sync, following one another closely. It was like they shared an unspoken understanding, a partnership that defied their usual instincts. The sight captivated me more now, knowing what was in the woods. I couldn't help but wonder if this unusual bond was a response to whatever lurked out there. The crowd had grown considerably larger, and I noticed a familiar face among them. A local journalist had arrived, camera in hand, eager to capture the story of the Kitten and Falcon for the newspaper. "This is such an odd pair, isn't it?" she remarked, snapping photos of the pair. Evidently, word had spread quickly, transforming a simple park visit into a spectacle worthy of the local press. Amidst the growing crowd, voices competed for dominance, each person offering their own theory. Yet, it was the park ranger who stood out, cutting through the noise with practicality. "Animals often behave unpredictably," he noted. His words were a breath of fresh air amidst speculation. "Their behaviors sometimes relate to survival or threats. A bigger picture or context might explain this odd friendship." His input was rare but refreshing insight. The ranger peeled back the layers of the unusual friendship, revealing that reports of territorial skirmishes had been on the rise among local birds. "Lately, different bird species have been clashing more than usual," he explained, pointing vaguely towards the forest. The ranger's account painted a picture of stress and chaos beneath the park's surface, suggesting that the falcon's actions might align with broader avian unrest. Listening to the ranger describe falcons' behavior, I learned they'd grown unusually territorial near the park. "Falcons tend to be fiercely protective, especially now," he said, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Their aggression could displace smaller animals, forcing them into strange alliances. This could explain the kitten's presence. The falcon wasn't just a companion. It was a protective force in a tension-filled environment. With the ranger's insights, a thought began to stir within me. The falcon's protective behavior might not be random. As the bird continued to stand guard over the small feline, its actions seemed less like chance and more like a conscious decision. Could it be that the falcon saw something in the kitten that compelled it to defend the weaker creature? This bond might be more intentional than it seemed. Riding this wave of curiosity, I dug deeper into similar situations. I found articles mentioning strange falcon behaviors reported in other regions. Instances where falcons acted oddly, forming bonds with unlikely companions, weren't unheard of. These articles suggested a pattern of inexplicable protective behavior. This newfound knowledge fueled my curious hunch that there was more to the story than met the eye, a clue waiting just beneath the surface. Tracing the local park's history, I discovered past occurrences of strange animal interactions. There had been whispers of other animal duos, protected partnerships that hadn't grabbed public attention like the kitten and falcon. It seemed such stories were local folklore, with no record of a previous case becoming public before. Perhaps these kinds of unusual behaviors had long been a part of the region's secret, waiting to be understood and revealed. Driven by this murky history of animal partnerships, I made my way to the library. Sifting through dusty stacks of old newspapers, snippets of past tales jumped out at me. Stories documented young animals surviving against the odds, helped by unexpected protectors. These stories, though buried under years of other news, painted a picture similar to the park's ongoing mystery. It was a silent pattern waiting to be woven together. As the stories unfolded on the pages of those yellowed newspapers, a discernible pattern began to emerge. In every odd partnership between animals documented, there was an element of the unexpected, a kind of unwritten natural law that no one had clearly articulated before. It struck me then that perhaps nobody had connected the dots between these pieces. Could being the first to notice such a link finally solve this enigma? A bubbling excitement built up inside me with every new connection I made. The possibility that this situation was part of something much larger, far beyond a kitten and a falcon, was becoming increasingly likely. This might be the moment where a broader understanding emerged, bridging past events with the current spectacle. Now, with the hope of unraveling this deeper mystery, I felt more driven than ever to dig even further. Determined to get to the bottom of this enigma, I decided to keep an even closer watch on the mysterious falcon and the injured kitten. Every day, I returned to that spot, eager to note any change or development. Answers seemed just around the corner, waiting to reveal themselves. My curiosity was insatiable, driving me to focus intensely on the odd pair, certain that a revelation was imminent. Returning to the park became my routine, spending hours from a distance studying the falcon's behavior. I carefully jotted down any differences in their interactions, hoping to spot new habits. The other park visitors began to notice, and some even shared in my curiosity. Soon, my notebook filled with detailed observations. Each page, a testament to my dedication, suggested that the falcon's protective stance was more deliberate than I first imagined. As I reviewed my notes, I couldn't help but wonder if something mysterious was happening here. Could there be an unseen force causing these strange interactions between animals? My mind raced with the possibilities. Was the park somehow influencing them? Each observation hinted at a puzzle piece not yet in place. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that these events were far from ordinary. Every day, more people approached, eager to share stories of odd backyard sightings. Neighbours spoke of familiar pets acting out or forming odd alliances. Some described cats chasing squirrels, only to nap together later. The tales seemed far-fetched at first, yet each story painted a broader picture. As I listened, it became abundantly clear that the phenomenon I'd noticed was happening far beyond the limits of the park. What initially appeared to be unique in the kitten and falcon was now happening with increasing regularity elsewhere. As everyone chimed in with anecdotes of strange animal friendships, it wasn't just my curiosity peaking. These stories spread like wildfire, capturing imaginations and suggesting that the peculiar pairing was more of a pattern than an anomaly. Such interactions among traditionally opposed animals hinted at something significant brewing beneath the surface. Hearing about these odd interactions made me wonder if science could explain them, so I tracked down a biologist who specialized in unusual animal behavior. Her reputation in this niche field was formidable, promising deeper insights. Carefully crafting my message, I reached out, hopeful she might offer clarity. A tiny part of me feared a scientific explanation might be too mundane, but my eagerness for answers pushed through doubts. With the biologist's contact established, a glimmer of hope sparked within me. She seemed thoughtful, assuring me that these interspecies friendships were not unheard of. It wasn't often that scientific knowledge met folklore. Huddled over our phones, we agreed to meet, anticipating her expert opinion could shine a light on why animals were suddenly forming such bonds, an explanation to unravel the common curiosity sweeping everyone into speculation. Our meeting was enlightening. With a calm demeanour, the biologist laid out her theory, citing minor climate changes that might have stirred animal behaviour shifts. Survival evolves, she mused, painting intricate pictures of creatures adapting through companionship. Her insights were compelling, challenging the simple predator-prey narrative. It felt as though a curtain had lifted, showing me that the animal world was reacting to changes in ways we were yet to fully grasp. She unfolded evidence of animals teaming up, sharing warmth, resources, and the silent promise of protection. Alliances in nature, she explained, were a tool for survival in changing environments. Her presentation was rife with case studies, circling back to my unusual findings. I listened intently, feeling the pieces falling into place. This wasn't just an odd occurrence, but a clear adaptation strategy, a mutual agreement among animals to brave the unexpected together. Her explanations not only captivated me, but validated my suspicions, shining light on what I thought was a personal hypothesis. Every instance of animal alliance she described resonated with the strange occurrences I had witnessed. Overwhelmed with new perspectives, it became evident that this widespread behaviour was not random, but rooted in instinctual survival. Her thorough insights stitched together the scenes I had painstakingly documented, bringing my understanding full circle. After considering all the possibilities and theories, we decided it was time to visit the unusual duo again, but with a fresh perspective. This trip wasn't just about curiosity, it was scientific observation. Armed with notebooks and cameras, we intended to approach this peculiar bond through a scientific lens, attempting to understand the dynamics that held the falcon and the kitten so closely together despite their natural differences. Our quest for knowledge continued. As we stood there, a breeze ruffling the pages of our notes, the falcon's demeanour seemed to intensify. Its watchfulness was unwavering, like a soldier on duty. Next to it, the kitten seemed cosily content in a way I'd never seen before. I exchanged a glance with my companion, both of us acknowledging the symbiosis of their relationship. There was a serenity at play that defied our preliminary speculations. Both of us turned to each other, our thoughts silently aligned. "Looks deliberate," my companion remarked, nodding towards the intertwined pair. We both realized that their alliance seemed rooted in survival instincts. Despite their inherent differences, they seemed bound by necessity rather than whim. The arrangement wasn't just happenstance. It was a decision, perhaps spurred by a shared need for protection or comfort, an unspoken pact forged between predator and prey. Each attempt on my part to inch closer was met with a clear response. The falcon would shift, its wings stretching slightly wider, shielding the kitten. "It's guarding," I murmured, stepping back to avoid agitating the bird. This protective stance underscored its role as a caretaker, not just an odd companion. The display of defense spoke volumes, reinforcing the idea that this bird wasn't leaving its charge vulnerable. Over time, the falcon seemed to grow more at ease with our presence, perhaps recognizing that we posed no threat. It no longer reacted so fiercely to every movement I made. However, there was a new layer of caution in its eyes. It was as if maintaining the delicate balance of protectiveness and curiosity. This cautious acceptance spoke of a gradual acclimation to the human gaze, yet the underlying vigilance remained. Thinking a gentle distraction might help gather more clues, I turned to some park regulars standing nearby. With their help, we created a minor diversion a dozen paces away. "Let the falcon feel less observed," I instructed, my tone light yet purposeful. We hoped our subtle tactics would allow a creature like the falcon to reveal more of its habits undisturbed, free from our relentless curiosity. With the diversion working to ease the falcon's vigilance temporarily, I managed to capture some clear photographs. The falcon looked regal with the kitten tucked at its side. The images would be invaluable in understanding this pairing further. These shots could speak volumes, I thought, reviewing each frame quickly. This brief window of opportunity afforded new angles to explore the mystery, marking a tangible stride in piecing together their story. Through my lens, I noticed some unusual markings on the kitten's fur. They were distinct but enigmatic, hinting at a story yet untold. I pondered their possible significance, recognizing they might hold clues to the pattern binding these creatures together. Yet, their meaning eluded me for now. Could these be more than just random spots? I mused, noting this down for future investigation. The markings provided yet another layer of intrigue. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, a noticeable shift occurred. The falcon's restlessness grew. Its eyes darted more frequently toward the darkening sky. The change was palpable, as if the approach of night signaled a cue for some event we couldn't yet fathom. I felt it too, a strange anticipation hanging in the air, suggesting that something significant might be just beyond the reach of twilight. On the biologist's recommendation, I reached out to a wildlife specialist with decades of experience working with birds of prey. "This calls for expert insight," she affirmed during our discussion. The specialist's knowledge could reveal new dimensions we hadn't considered. With dusk hinting at undiscovered layers of this mystery, our talk scheduled for the next day was timed perfectly, a step toward untangling the complexities at play. With focused eyes, the specialist observed, paying close attention to every movement the falcon made. Its majestic presence was undeniable, but he was searching for something deeper. Each flap of its wings and every soft sound it emitted held potential meaning. "Look at how it positions itself," he noted, pointing to the bird's protective stance. His intense scrutiny was a blend of admiration and curiosity, aiming to decode this unusual relationship. The specialist kept his eyes locked on the falcon while his hand scribbled furiously in his worn field notebook. "This is peculiar," he mumbled, pausing only to adjust the brim of his cap. His notes were a stream of consciousness, documenting every detail he could gather. He frequently glanced up, ensuring no crucial movement or sound went unnoticed. Each jot added another layer of potential understanding to this bizarre tableau. Peering over his pages, the specialist suddenly looked up, a glimmer of realization flickering in his eyes. His conclusion, forming amid furrowed brows, was both surprising and insightful. "There might be an ancient instinct at play here," he speculated, as the bond between the falcon and kitten seemed to transcend usual animal interactions. His unexpected theory captivated everyone present, suggesting a deeper, almost mystical connection between these seemingly disparate creatures. Delving into his vast experience, the specialist explained instances of raptors forming bonds with young creatures from different species. "There are cases recorded," he started, "where mutual survival instincts bred unusual friendships." His mention of shared protection arcs tied to ancestral recognition opened a new dimension of understanding. "What we're seeing could be remnants of ancient connections," he suggested, referencing archival discoveries of such historical relationships in wildlife. I stood there, slightly dazed, trying to wrap my head around this striking concept. This idea, that a falcon might recognize and protect a kitten based on some long-forgotten link, was mind-boggling. My heart raced with disbelief and wonder as I considered the implications. How could such an extraordinary alliance form amidst the ordinary hustle of park life? This bewildering revelation added a majestic layer to the heartwarming duo's story. As word of the Falcon and Kitten connection spread, the park buzzed with excitement. People flocked to witness this miracle of nature firsthand. Conversations buzzed through the town, fueling a community-wide curiosity. "Have you heard about the Falcon and Kitten?" Voices whispered in cafes and stores, each recounting the wonder spreading like wildfire. The unlikely pair had gone from hidden anomaly to town legend in the blink of an eye. One Saturday morning, a cheerful bustle swept across the park. Families arrived, armed with picnic baskets and cameras, eager to glimpse the little marvel. "I can't believe we're finally going to see them," a child exclaimed, pulling at her mother's hand. For many, this peculiar partnership was not only a source of amazement, but also a lesson in nature's unpredictable wonders. Weekend outings turned into a journey of discovery and camaraderie. The park ranger, noticing the swell of visitors, decided to take charge. He organized designated viewing areas, making sure everyone could enjoy the sight without disturbing the duo. "Please stay behind the tape," he called out with authority but kind demeanor. Informational signs about possible ecological importance were also set up. His efforts ensured the duo remained safe and undisturbed by the rising tide of captivated human curiosity. As throngs of visitors gathered, so did tales and speculative whispers. Everyone had a theory on why the falcon protected the kitten, from simple affection to complex ecological implications. Experts mulled over the clues too, but the puzzle remained incomplete. "I have my own thoughts," an older gentleman mused quietly. Even with so many perspectives, a definitive answer stayed tantalizingly out of grasp, leaving a lingering sense of mystery in the air. Amid the clamour of various ideas, I felt a clarity settling in, an intuition leading me closer to understanding. Observing the falcon's keen eyes and the kitten nestled underneath, it all seemed to suggest an unseen bond. I stood on the brink, feeling the whisper of nature's secrets brushing against my consciousness. With each heartbeat, a revelation seemed imminent, the edge of discovery tantalizingly close, hanging with nature's grand design. For days, the falcon's secret remained elusive, just bubbling below the surface, sparking curiosity among the crowd. There was something about its behavior that hinted at more than mere instinct. People began speculating about its hidden motives, with each gesture and gaze reinforcing the idea of an underlying mystery. The falcon stood steadfast, on the lookout, its secret waiting for just the right moment to unveil itself. And then, one day, everything changed. The falcon spread its glorious wings wide, casting a shadow over the watching crowd. Slowly, deliberately, its movements uncovered a truth that had been waiting to emerge. For a suspended moment, it felt as though time had paused, holding its breath. Everyone present knew this was the turning point, with the veil of mystery on the brink of being lifted. The kitten, tucked safely beneath the falcon's wing, suddenly seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the crowd as intricate patterns emerged on its fur, like a puzzle coming to life. These weren't just spots or stripes. These were distinct, ancient marks that had to mean something more. People exchanged glances, knowing these symbols weren't random, but carried historical significance known to people of old. Those ancient markings sparked recognition among the onlookers, especially from local elders who stepped forward, their eyes glazed with memories. "These marks represent unity," one explained, tracing the patterns lightly with calloused fingers. "They're part of our culture's tales of resilience." With an air of reverence, the elders shared stories of these symbols, their words painting vivid images of not just survival, but thriving through profound unity across generations. As stories of the past washed over us, a realization struck. The falcon's reasons for protecting the kitten ran deeper than anyone imagined. It seemed drawn by ancestral memory, recognizing those symbols with a kind of instinctual reverence passed down through time. Generations of survival instincts had crystallized into a bond, A timeless allegiance echoed within the falcon's vigilant watch over the sacred symbols nestled in fur. The crowd gasped collectively, their previous disbelief replaced by awe. The falcon and the kitten were more than just a curious sight. They were a living testament to something profound. Park visitors exchanged knowing looks, finally comprehending the monumental connection that grounded these creatures. It was like witnessing a tangible piece of folklore unfold before their very eyes, wrapping them in the warmth of an ancient truth now seen clearly. In the reflection of wide eyes, the story of ancient kinship unfurled. The falcon had perceived a spirit in the kitten's markings, a bond surpassing the mundane reality of their forms. It transcended mere survival, weaving a narrative of companionship across time. As the pattern grew clear, the audience basked in the purity of this connection, realizing that such bonds were etched into the fabric of life itself. This incredible story reminded everyone that nature is rife with such hidden bonds waiting for someone to notice. People left the park with a renewed sense of connection to the earth and each other. Conversations centered around the phenomena, attendees carrying this tale into their homes. Each retelling resonated with the timelessness of these bonds, a reminder of the intricate networks woven into the world around them. News of the falcon and kitten's friendship spread far beyond the park, captivating imaginations near and far. They weren't just an oddity. Now they stood as symbols of resilience and unlikely companionship, inspiring narratives of overcoming differences. Visitors arrived, drawn by the story, teaching lessons of resilience and friendship through the kitten and falcon's extraordinary alliance. Authority figures noted the pair, becoming a living legend for the ages. As the park returned to its tranquil rhythm, echoes of the falcon and kitten's tale lingered on. Among trees and walkways, their bond had become a quiet legend, reminding all who watched that sometimes the most extraordinary connections lurk in nature's fabric. The story continued to unfold in whispers and glances, preserving the memory of an immortal partnership and the deep, unspoken communication that united such unlikely spirits.
If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.